The heavy oak door slammed shut, echoing like a gunshot through the silent neighborhood. Liam Harrington stood on the porch, his arm draped possessively around his young, pregnant mistress, Sophia. On the driveway, amidst the pouring rain, lay 3 suitcases, the sum total of Alice's 10-year marriage. "Get out!" Liam shouted, his voice dripping with arrogance. "This is my house, my empire. You're nothing without me." Alice didn't scream. She didn't beg. She simply smoothed her wet hair, looked him dead in the eye and whispered, "Remember those words, Liam?" He laughed as he turned his back on her. He didn't know that the ground beneath his feet, literally and legally, had already shifted. 3 days later, a black Rolls-Royce would pull up to that same driveway, and the woman he discarded would return. Not as his wife, but as his landlord. The chandelier in the Harrington estate was imported from Vienna, or so Liam liked to tell everyone who walked through the door. It cast a fracturing, golden light over the party guests, a collection of the city's elite, tech moguls, old money socialites, and hungry sharks in Italian suits. Alice Harrington moved through the crowd not like the lady of the house, but like a shadow. She held a tray of crystal flutes, offering champagne to men who didn't bother to look her in the eye. "Incredible quarter, Liam," said Marcus Thorne, a competitor Liam had recently crushed in a merger. "Truly, the acquisition of the Vance logistics line, genius." Liam Harrington, standing by the fireplace with a glass of scotch in hand, soaked in the praise. He was 42, handsome in a sharp, predatory way, with silvering temples that only added to his authority. "It required decisive action," Liam said, his voice booming slightly. "Some people don't have the stomach for the hard calls. I do." Alice paused near them, her hand trembling slightly as she adjusted a napkin. Decisive action. She knew what that meant. It meant 6 months of her staying up until 4 a.m., analyzing Vance Logistics' hidden debt, restructuring the deal so Liam wouldn't bankrupt their own company. It meant her finding the legal loophole that allowed the acquisition to go through. "Alice!" Liam snapped, snapping her out of her thoughts. He didn't turn to face her. He just extended his empty glass. "Refill, and tell the staff the canapes are running low." "Of course, Liam," she said softly. A young woman in a backless red dress laughed, a sharp, tinkling sound that grated on Alice's nerves. It was Sophia Miller, Liam's executive assistant. She was 24, with skin that looked like it had never seen a day of stress, and eyes that watched Liam with a mix of adoration and calculation. "You're so hard on her, Liam," Sophia cooed, stepping closer to him, her hand brushing his arm a little too intimately for a boss-employee relationship. "She needs direction," Liam replied, loud enough for Alice to hear as she walked away. "Alice is simple. She's good at the domestic things, keeping the house warm. But the business world, it confuses her." The guests chuckled. A few wives looked at Alice with pity, but most looked away. In their world, power was the only currency, and Alice, in her modest grey dress and quiet demeanour, seemed bankrupt. But they didn't know the history. They didn't know that 10 years ago, Liam was a college dropout with a gambling debt and a dream. They didn't know that Alice, a scholarship law student at the time, had used her inheritance from her grandmother to bail him out. They didn't know she was the one who incorporated Harrington Global, signing the initial documents as the silent partner, because Liam's credit score was too ruined to get a loan. She had made herself small so he could feel big. And tonight, as she stood in the kitchen watching the caterers, she realized she had shrunk so much she had almost disappeared. "Mum." It was Maria, the head housekeeper. She looked worried. "Mr. Harrington is asking for you in the study. He says the party is over for you." Alice frowned. The guests are still here. He sent them to the pool house. He wants to see you alone. Alice walked down the long hallway, her heels clicking on the marble she had picked out, marble she had paid for. She opened the heavy oak doors to the study. Liam was sitting behind the massive mahogany desk. Sophia was sitting on the edge of it, sipping Alice's favourite vintage wine. "Close the door," Liam said. Alice closed it. "What's going on, Liam?" He slid a thick manila envelope across the desk. It stopped right at the edge, teetering. "I'm filing for divorce," he said. His tone was casual, as if he were ordering lunch. Irreconcilable differences. But really it's just, "I've outgrown you, Alice. Look at you. You're a mouse. I need a lioness." He smirked at Sophia, who preened. "And," Sophia added, her voice sickly sweet, "we're pregnant. A son. Something you never gave him." The air left the room. Alice felt a physical blow to her chest. A son. They had tried for years. The doctors said it was Liam's stress, his lifestyle. But he had always blamed her. "I see," Alice said, her voice surprisingly steady. "So, 10 years. The sacrifices. The late nights building this company. It means nothing?" "Building the company?" Liam laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "You organized files, Alice. You made coffee. Don't delude yourself. I built this. I am Harrington Global." He pointed to the envelope. "I'm being generous. There's a check in there for $50,000. Sign the papers, take the money, and leave. Tonight." "Tonight?" Alice whispered. "It's raining. This is my home." "Not anymore," Liam sneered. "I checked the deed this morning. It's under the Harrington Trust. I control the trust. I control the house. You have 0 equity. I made sure of that years ago." Alice looked at the papers. She looked at Sophia, who was smirking, her hand resting on her flat stomach. And then, something in Alice's eyes changed. The sadness evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. "You checked the deed?" Alice asked quietly. "Of course I did. I'm a businessman." "You checked the public deed," she corrected. "Same thing. Get out, Alice. Before I have security throw you out." The humiliation was designed to be public. Liam didn't just want her gone. He wanted to scour her existence from his life to make room for the new, shiny version. He marched her upstairs, Sophia trailing behind like a giddy child watching a play. He pulled Alice's suitcases from the closet. He had already packed them. Or rather, he had thrown random items into them. "My jewelry?" Alice asked, watching him zip a bag shut. "Bought with my money," Liam said. "Stays here for Sophia." "My laptop?" "Company property. Stays." He hauled the bags down the stairs. The party guests in the pool house couldn't see the front door, but the staff could. Maria was crying in the corner of the hallway. The driver, Thomas, looked down at his shoes, ashamed to witness this, but powerless to stop it. Liam opened the front door. The storm had worsened. Rain lashed against the porch lights. "Go," Liam said. "Liam, please," Alice said. She wasn't begging for the relationship. She was probing him, giving him one last chance to show a shred of humanity. "I have nowhere to go tonight. The hotels are booked for the convention. Let me stay in the guest room until morning." "Not my problem," Liam said. Sophia leaned against the doorframe. "You heard him. Bye-bye." Liam shoved the suitcases. They tumbled down the wet steps, landing in the mud. One burst open, spilling Alice's clothes onto the soaked driveway. "You're pathetic," Liam spat. "Take your 50 grand and find a trailer park. That's where you belong." Alice walked down the steps. The rain soaked her instantly. She knelt in the mud, gathering her clothes. She didn't rush. She folded a silk blouse carefully, even though it was ruined. She closed the suitcase. She stood up and looked back at the house, the massive, sprawling mansion that she had found, the renovation she had managed, the mortgage she had structured. "You're making a mistake, Liam," she said. Her voice was low, cutting through the sound of the rain. "The only mistake I made was marrying a charity case," he retorted. He slammed the door. The sound was final. Alice stood there for a moment in the dark. She took a deep breath. The air smelled of rain and ozone. She pulled her phone from her pocket. It was the only piece of tech he hadn't taken, likely because it was 3 years old and had a cracked screen. She dialed a number. "Blackwood," a gruff voice answered on the second ring. "Arthur," Alice said. "Initiate Protocol Omega." There was a pause on the line. Then the sound of a chair scraping, as if the man on the other end was sitting up straight. "Protocol Omega? Alice, are you sure? That's the nuclear option. It will wipe him out. Completely." "He just threw me into the mud, Arthur. He put his mistress in my bedroom." Alice wiped a raindrop from her eyelash. "Burn it down. I want the house, the company, the assets, everything, by Monday." "Understood," Arthur Blackwood said. "I've been waiting for this call for 5 years." The weekend passed in a blur for Liam. It was a blur of champagne, Sophia, and the intoxicating feeling of absolute freedom. He felt lighter. He had shed the dead weight. He spent Saturday redecorating the study. He ordered the staff to burn Alice's paintings, soft, impressionist landscapes she had painted herself, and replaced them with bold, modern art that cost a fortune. "You're the king of the castle now, baby," Sophia whispered, tracing the line of his jaw. "I always was," Liam replied. On Sunday, he tried to log into the corporate bank account to transfer a bonus to himself, a little celebration gift for the upcoming baby. Access denied. He frowned. He typed the password again. "Access denied. Please contact administrator." "Strange," he muttered. He called the IT director, a nervous man named Gary. "Gary, why am I locked out of the primary accounts?" I don't know, Mr. Harrington," Gary stammered. "The system is showing a level 1 lockdown. It's flagged as owner override." "Did you change the master key?" "I am the owner," Liam shouted. "Fix it." "I can't, sir. The credentials overriding you. They're coming from the holding company level, above Harrington Global." Liam hung up. He was annoyed, but not panicked. It was probably a glitch. The bank systems were always updating on Sundays. Monday morning arrived. Liam dressed in his best navy suit. He wanted to walk into the office and announce the restructuring, corporate speak for firing anyone loyal to Alice. He drove his Porsche to the Harrington Tower downtown. He tossed the keys to the valet and strode into the lobby. The security guard, old Mr. Henderson, usually greeted him with a salute. Today Mr. Henderson looked at his clipboard, then up at Liam, his face pale. "Mr. Harrington, I can't let you up." Liam stopped. "Excuse me?" "My orders, sir. Your pass has been deactivated." "Deactivated? Do you know who I am? I own this building." Liam's face turned red. "I'm going to fire you, Henderson. Get out of my way." He pushed past the guard and marched to the elevators. He pressed his thumb against the biometric scanner. Beep. Unrecognized user. "What the hell is going on?" Liam screamed, kicking the elevator doors. Behind him, the glass doors of the lobby opened. The sound of heels clicking on the terrazzo floor was sharp and rhythmic. "There seems to be a misunderstanding regarding the ownership, Liam." Liam spun around. Alice was standing there. But it wasn't the Alice he had thrown out on Friday. That Alice wore grey wool and looked at the floor. This Alice was wearing a white, tailored power suit that cost more than Liam's car. Her hair was slicked back, sharp and chic. She wore stilettos that looked like weapons, and flanked on either side of her were 4 men in dark suits, carrying briefcases. "Alice?" Liam laughed, though it sounded nervous. "What is this? You use the 50 grand to buy a suit? You look ridiculous. Go away before I call the police." "Actually," one of the men next to her stepped forward. It was Arthur Blackwood, the most feared corporate litigator in the city. "We've already called the police, Mr. Harrington, to escort you off the premises." "Who are you?" Liam demanded. "I represent the Sterling Trust," Blackwood said calmly, "the majority shareholder of Harrington Global." "The Sterling Trust?" Liam scoffed. That's just the shell company we use for tax purposes. I control it." "You think you control it?" Alice said, stepping closer. Her voice was ice. "Do you remember when we incorporated, Liam? You had bad credit. You couldn't be the primary signatory on the parent LLC, so you let me sign the boring paperwork while you went out for drinks with investors." Liam's face went pale. He remembered. He had been too drunk to read the fine print. He had just wanted the money released. "That boring paperwork," Alice continued, "designated you as the CEO, yes? But it designated me as the sole managing member of the Sterling Trust, which owns the building, the company, the intellectual property. And," she smiled, a terrifying, beautiful smile, "the house." "No," Liam whispered. "That's impossible." "You threw me out of my house, Liam," Alice said. "You threw the owner out of her own property, and under the morality clause in your CEO contract, which I also wrote, infidelity and public scandal are grounds for immediate termination with cause, which means no severance, no stock options, nothing." She held out a hand. "Give me the keys to the Porsche. The company leases it." "You can't do this!" Liam lunged at her. The security guards moved instantly, pinning his arms behind his back. "It's already done," Alice said. She turned to Blackwood. "Serve him." Blackwood slapped a thick stack of papers onto Liam's chest. "Eviction notice for the residential property, termination notice for the employment, and a restraining order. You have 24 hours to vacate the estate." "But Sophia," Liam stammered. "She's pregnant." "Then I suggest she finds a job," Alice said coldly. "Because you're broke, Liam." She turned to the elevator. She pressed her thumb to the scanner. "Beep. Welcome, Ms. Sterling." The doors slid open. She stepped inside, not looking back, as the guards dragged her screaming husband toward the exit. The rain from the weekend had dried up, leaving the sky a crisp, mocking blue. It was Tuesday, 1 p.m. The 24-hour grace period Alice had generously granted in the eviction notice had expired 3 minutes ago. Liam Harrington sat in the living room of the estate, surrounded by half-packed boxes. He was drinking whiskey straight from the bottle. Sophia was upstairs, frantically throwing designer clothes into Louis Vuitton trunks, screaming at the maids who were no longer listening to her. "They won't help me, Liam," Sophia shrieked from the banister. "Make them carry my bags." Liam didn't look up. He stared at the empty wall where Alice's paintings used to hang. The modern art he had replaced them with was currently leaning against the sofa, looking garish and cheap in the daylight. A low rumble vibrated through the floorboards. It grew louder, a mechanical hum that signaled power. Liam walked to the window. A black Rolls-Royce Phantom had pulled up to the curb. Behind it were 2 large moving trucks with the logo Secure Relocation Services, and behind those, a police cruiser. "She's actually doing it," Liam muttered. The denial he had been living in for 24 hours finally shattered. The front door opened. He hadn't unlocked it. Alice walked in. She was accompanied by Arthur Blackwood and 2 uniformed police officers. She wore a trench coat over her suit and held a clipboard. She didn't look at Liam. She looked at the walls, the floors, the furniture. "Officer," Alice said. her voice calm and professional. These squatters were served with a notice to vacate yesterday at noon. As you can see, they are still on the premises. Liam, do something! Sophia came running down the stairs, clutching a jewellery box. She's trespassing. Actually, Miss Miller, Arthur Blackwood interjected, stepping forward. You are the trespasser, and judging by that box, potentially a thief. That jewellery inventory belongs to the trust. It was a gift, Sophia spat. Purchased with a company credit card, Blackwood corrected, which makes it embezzled corporate property. Hand it over, or we add grand larceny to the police report. Sophia froze. She looked at Liam, eyes wide with panic. Liam? Liam finally turned to Alice. He looked wrecked. His eyes were bloodshot, his stubble thick. Alice, stop this. We can talk. We can work out a settlement. You don't want to destroy the father of your future. Well, you don't want to destroy me. Alice walked over to the fireplace. She ran a finger along the mantel, checking for dust. There is no settlement, Liam. You signed the prenuptial agreement 10 years ago. You signed the company bylaws. You signed your own death warrant when you underestimated me. She turned to the movers who had just entered. Clear the house. Anything that isn't listed on the original inventory sheet goes to the curb, or the dump. I don't care. You can't do that, Liam shouted. My trophies, my golf clubs. Purchased with my dividends, Alice said. Into the truck. The movers were efficient. They bypassed Liam as if he were a ghost. They began hauling out the modern art, the leather recliner Liam loved, the espresso machine he had bought last week. Alice, please, Liam's voice cracked. He moved toward her, dropping to his knees. It was a pathetic sight, the man who had acted like a king 3 days ago, now begging at the feet of the woman he discarded. I have nowhere to go. My accounts are frozen. The credit cards are declined. Just give me a week. A week to find an apartment. Alice looked down at him. Her expression wasn't angry anymore. It was worse. It was indifferent. You gave me 3 minutes, Liam, she said softly. You threw my clothes in the mud in the middle of a storm. And you laughed, she signaled to the police officers. Get them out. The officers stepped forward. Mr. Harrington, Miss Miller, you need to leave now, or you will be arrested for criminal trespass. Liam stood up, shaking. He grabbed his jacket. He didn't look at Sophia. He walked out the door, past the Rolls-Royce, past the movers. Sophia followed, dragging one suitcase, screaming obscenities at Alice. You're a witch. You're just jealous because I have what you couldn't give him. She rubbed her belly theatrically. Alice didn't flinch. She just watched them go. As the heavy oak door clicked shut, Maria, the housekeeper, stepped out from the kitchen. She had been hiding. Maria, Alice said, her voice warming instantly. I'm sorry you had to see that. Oh, Miss Alice, Maria sobbed, rushing to hug her. I thought you were gone forever. He burned your paintings. I know, Alice said, stroking the older woman's back. But don't worry. I have scans of all of them. And Maria, you're getting a raise, and a new boss. No more parties until 4:01 a.m. Alice walked to the window. She watched Liam trying to jam his suitcase into the trunk of Sophia's small convertible. The Porsche had already been repossessed. Goodbye, Liam, she whispered. The Royal Pines Motel was neither royal nor located near any pines. It was a decaying strip of stucco off the interstate, smelling of mildew and stale cigarettes. Liam sat on the edge of the lumpy mattress, his head in his hands. The neon sign outside buzzed incessantly, casting a flickering red light into the room. Sophia was in the bathroom, applying makeup in the cracked mirror. This is temporary, Liam, she called out. You'll sue her. You'll get it back. You're a genius, remember. Liam didn't feel like a genius. He felt like a man who had woken up from a 10-year coma to find his life stripped for parts. He checked his phone. 7 missed calls from his gambling bookie. 0 calls from his friends. "We need money, Sophia," Liam said. "I have $40 in my wallet. That's it." Sophia came out of the bathroom. She looked out of place in the dingy room, wearing a silk robe. "Well, don't look at me. My dad cut me off when I moved in with you. He said I was a gold digger. Can you believe that?" Liam looked at her, really looked at her. For the first time, he saw past the youth and the beauty. He saw the hardness in her eyes, the selfishness. "Sell the ring," Liam said. "What?" Sophia clutched her left hand. A 3-carat diamond sat there. "Are you crazy? This is my engagement ring. We're not engaged anymore, Sophia. I'm bankrupt. Sell the ring so we can eat and hire a lawyer." "No." She backed away. "You fix this, Liam. You're the man. Go get money from that ex-wife of yours. Beg if you have to." Liam stared at her. "You want me to beg her?" "She obviously still loves you," Sophia scoffed. "Women like that. The quiet, mousy ones. They're obsessed. Go there. Tell her you made a mistake. Tell her you want to come home. Spin her a story. Once we're back in, we can figure out how to get the power back." It was a delusional plan. But Liam was a desperate man, and desperate men believe in delusions. He put on his suit, the only clean one he had left. He slicked back his hair with water from the tap. "I'll be back," he said. He took Sophia's car. He drove back to the estate, parking down the street so security wouldn't see him. He waited until nightfall. He knew the code to the back gate. He prayed Alice hadn't changed it yet. He typed in the numbers, 1015, the date of their wedding. The gate clicked open. She hadn't changed it. His heart leapt. She still cares. He crept through the garden, avoiding the motion sensor lights. He reached the French doors of the study. He saw Alice inside. She was sitting at his old desk, her desk now, working on a laptop. She looked powerful, focused. He tapped on the glass. Alice looked up. She didn't scream. She didn't look scared. She just stood up and walked to the door. She unlocked it and slid it open. "I expected you," she said. "Alice," Liam breathed, stepping inside. The warmth of the house hit him like a physical embrace. I needed to see you. You're trespassing, Liam. Again." "I know. Call the police if you want. But hear me out first." He fell into his old charm, the smooth voice that had won investors over. "I messed up. The stress, the pressure of the merger. I wasn't myself. Sophia, she was a distraction, a mistake. I don't love her." Alice leaned against the desk, crossing her arms. "You don't love the mother of your child?" "I love you," Liam lied effortlessly. "We built this. You and me. 10 years, Alice. You can't just throw that away." "I didn't throw it away," Alice said. "I recycled it." She reached for a folder on the desk. "You know, Liam, when I took over the accounts on Monday, I audited everything, including the health insurance plan." "What does that have to do with anything?" "Sophia was added to the company health plan 3 months ago," Alice said. "As your dependent. Very illegal, by the way. But it gave me access to her medical claims." She tossed the folder to him. It landed at his feet. "Read it." Liam picked it up. It was a medical report from a fertility clinic. "What is this?" "Look at the date of conception," Alice said. "And look at the notes." Liam scanned the paper. His eyes widened. "Estimated date of conception, November 12th. "Where were you on November 12th, Liam?" Alice asked. I was in Tokyo for the tech summit. I was gone for 2 weeks." "Exactly," Alice said. "And look at the bottom, the blood type. The fetus is Rh negative. You're Rh positive. Sophia is Rh positive." Liam's hands shook. That's impossible. 2 positives can't make a negative. It's rare, but possible if you both carry the gene. But you don't. We did genetic testing 5 years ago when we were trying to conceive. Remember? You are dominant positive. The room spun. It's not my baby, Liam whispered. No, Alice said coldly. And judging by the frequent calls on the company phone log to a certain Marcus Thorne, I think we know whose baby it is. Marcus Thorne, his biggest competitor, the man he had bragged to at the party. She's a spy, Liam choked out. A spy? No, just an opportunist, Alice said. Marcus Thorne paid her to get close to you, to leak the Vance Logistics deal details. Why do you think Thorne knew exactly how to bid against us initially? Why do you think the merger was so hard? She was feeding him info from your pillow talk, Liam. Liam fell back against the wall. The betrayal was absolute. He had destroyed his marriage, his home, and his life for a woman who was carrying his enemy's child. Get out, Alice said. Go back to your motel. Go back to your fake girlfriend. And tell her the game is over. The drive back from the estate to the motel was a blur of neon lights and suffocating darkness. Liam Harrington didn't remember navigating the highway. He didn't remember stopping at red lights. His brain was stuck in a loop, replaying the conversation with Alice over and over again, like a corrupted hard drive. November 12th. Tokyo. RH negative. Marcus Thorne. His hands gripped the leather steering wheel of Sophia's compact convertible so tightly that his knuckles turned the color of bone. This car, a frivolous birthday gift he had bought her 3 months ago, smelled like her perfume, vanilla and ambition. It made him sick. He rolled down the window, letting the humid night air blast him in the face, but he couldn't wash away the nausea. He had burned his kingdom to the ground for a woman. He had discarded a wife who had silently built his fortune, all for a younger, brighter model. And now, the truth was sitting in his gut like swallowed glass. The new model wasn't just defective, it was stolen property. Liam pulled into the parking lot of the Royal Pines Motel. The R and the P on the neon sign had burned out, leaving it to read Oil Ines. It was a fitting title for his current existence. The place was a festering sore on the side of the interstate, a haven for long-haul truckers, addicts, and people who had nowhere else to go. People like him. He sat in the car for a long moment, the engine idling. He looked at the door to room 104. The curtains were drawn, but he could see the flicker of the television set against the fabric. She was in there, the mother of his... No, not his child. The rage that washed over him wasn't hot and fiery. It was cold. It was the absolute zero of space. It was a clarity he hadn't felt in years. He killed the engine and stepped out. The asphalt was sticky with oil and old gum. He walked to the door, not stomping, but moving with the heavy, purposeful tread of an executioner. He didn't use the keycard. He pounded his fist against the wood. "Open up," he said, his voice raspy. A moment later, the lock clicked. Sophia opened the door, wearing a silk robe that cost more than the motel itself. She was holding a bag of spicy potato chips, her fingers stained red. She looked annoyed, like a teenager interrupted during a phone call. "God, Liam, you don't have to break the door down," she snapped, turning her back on him and walking back to the bed. "Well, don't keep me in suspense. Did you work your magic? Did the mouse cut a check?" Liam stepped inside and closed the door. He locked it. Then he slid the deadbolt. The sound of the deadbolt sliding home made Sophia pause. She turned around, a chip halfway to her mouth. She looked at his face, really looked at him, and for the first time in their relationship, the mask of the adoring ingenue slipped. "You look terrible," she said, her voice flat. Did she spit in your face? I told you she would. Liam didn't speak. He walked past the stained armchair, past the mini-fridge that hummed like a dying insect, and stood at the foot of the bed. He stared at her stomach. The slight swell that he had worshipped just days ago now looked like a tumor. November 12th, Liam said softly. Sophia frowned. What? November 12th, Liam repeated, louder this time. The date of conception? According to the medical records Alice pulled from the company servers. Sophia's eyes flickered. It was a micro-expression, a tiny spasm of panic that vanished as quickly as it appeared. But Liam saw it. He saw the calculation happening behind her beautiful eyes. You went through my medical records? She let out a scoff of disbelief, trying to regain the offensive. That is a violation of my privacy, Liam. I could sue you for that. I could. I was in Tokyo, Liam roared. The sound was so loud it shook the thin walls of the room. I was at the Global Tech Summit. I was gone for 14 days, Sophia. I have the flight logs. I have the hotel receipts. He advanced on her, and she scrambled back against the headboard, clutching the bag of chips like a shield. So unless this is a divine miracle, Liam hissed, leaning over the bed, that baby isn't mine. Is it? Sophia stared at him. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. The buzzing of the neon sign outside seemed to grow louder. Zisht. Zisht. Then, slowly, a change came over her. The fear evaporated. The feigned indignation vanished. Her shoulders relaxed. She reached into the bag, took out a chip, and ate it. The crunch was deafening in the quiet room. Took you long enough, she said. Her voice was completely different. The high-pitched, girlish tone she used with him was gone, replaced by a lower, bored drawl. Liam felt the floor tilt beneath him. What? I said. Took you long enough, Sophia repeated. She wiped her fingers on the motel bedspread. Marcus said you were smart. He said you were a ruthless shark. But honestly, Liam, you're kind of an idiot. I thought you'd figure it out when I asked for pickles and peanut butter. Marcus eats that. I hate peanut butter. Marcus. Liam whispered the name like a curse. Marcus Thorne. Ding, 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 Sophia said, mimicking a game show bell. We have a winner. Liam felt the blood draining from his face. You were with him the whole time. Baby, I was never with you. She laughed. It was a cruel, metallic sound. I work for Marcus. Well, work is a strong word. I'm a consultant. He bet me $50,000, plus expenses, that I couldn't get the great Liam Harrington to blow up his marriage in under 6 months. She checked her manicured nails. I did it in 4. Honestly, it was embarrassing how easy it was. A little flattery, a little tight dress, and you were ready to throw away a 10-year partnership. Alice was the brains, Liam. Everyone in town knew it, except you. Marcus just wanted her out of the way, so he could buy your logistics division for pennies on the dollar. Liam fell back against the dresser. His legs wouldn't hold him. It wasn't just an affair. It was a corporate assassination. He had been played, dismantled. The baby, Liam stammered. Is it? Oh, the baby is real, Sophia said, rubbing her belly. And it's Marcus's. He's thrilled. He's going to leave his wife next month. Unlike you, he actually has a prenup that protects him, so he'll be fine. And he bought me a condo, a real one. Not this dump. She stood up and moved toward her suitcase, which was already half-packed. So, if you're done hyperventilating, she said breezily, I'm going to go. Marcus sent a car. It's waiting down the street. Liam looked at her. This woman who had whispered promises of forever in his ear while checking her watch. The rage returned, hotter this time, It blinded him. "You ruined me," he choked out. "You ruined yourself," she corrected, zipping up her Louis Vuitton bag. "I just handed you the matches." "You're not going anywhere!" Liam lunged. He didn't know what he was going to do. He just wanted to stop her. He wanted to shake the arrogance out of her. He reached for her arm. Sophia was faster. She had been expecting this. She didn't scream. She didn't cower. She simply reached into her purse, sitting on the nightstand, and pulled out a small black canister. Hiss! A cloud of orange mist hit Liam directly in the eyes. The pain was instantaneous and blinding. It felt like someone had shoved red-hot needles into his pupils. Liam screamed, a guttural, animalistic sound, and clawed at his face. He stumbled backward, tripping over his own feet and crashing onto the filthy carpet. "My eyes! God, my eyes!" "Don't touch me," Sophia said. Her voice was calm, almost bored. "And don't follow me. If you come within 50 feet of me or Marcus, I'll file a restraining order. And I'll tell the press you hit a pregnant woman. Who do you think they'll believe? The bankrupt adulterer or the grieving mother-to-be?" Liam writhed on the floor, coughing and retching as the pepper spray filled his lungs. He couldn't see anything but a searing red haze. He heard the click of her heels on the linoleum. He heard the suitcase wheels rolling. "Bye, Liam," she said from the doorway. "Thanks for the jewelry. I pawned the diamond this morning. Consider it my severance package." The door slammed shut. Liam lay there in the dark, gasping for air, tears streaming down his face, mixing with the chemical burn. He was alone. Truly alone. The silence of the room rushed back in, heavy and oppressive. He curled into a fetal position on the floor that smelled of stale beer and cigarette ash. He tried to think of a next move, a plan, a way out. But there was nothing. No assets, no home, no allies. Bzzzt. His phone vibrated in his pocket. For a second, a desperate, delusional hope flared in his chest. Maybe it was Alice. Maybe she had changed her mind. Maybe she was calling to say she forgave him, that she would send a car, that this was all just a terrible nightmare. He fumbled for the phone with shaking hands. He wiped his burning eyes on his sleeve, blinking rapidly to clear the tears. He squinted at the bright screen. It wasn't a text. It wasn't a call. It was an automated news alert from the Wall Street Journal. Breaking. Leadership shakeup at Harrington Global. Liam tapped the notification. His vision was blurry, but he could read the headline. Board of Directors ousts Liam Harrington. Effective immediately. Alice Sterling. Named CEO. Stock prices surge. 15% in after-hours trading. Liam let the phone slip from his fingers. It hit the floor with a dull thud. The article didn't just say he was fired. It detailed the unanimous vote of no confidence. It mentioned gross mismanagement. It quoted Arthur Blackwood regarding a forensic audit into the misuse of company funds. This was the second blow. The physical pain of the pepper spray was nothing compared to this. Alice hadn't just taken the house. She hadn't just taken the company. She was building a cage. A forensic audit meant they were looking at the books, the real books, the offshore accounts, the gambling debts he had paid off with vendor checks, the consulting fees he had paid to shell companies. Liam closed his burning eyes. He rolled onto his back and stared up at the water-stained ceiling he couldn't see. He started to laugh. It was a dry, hacking sound that turned into a sob. He thought he had hit rock bottom when the door slammed. He was wrong. He had just fallen through the trap door, and he was plummeting into the dark, realizing too late that Alice Sterling didn't just want him gone. She wanted him buried. The fall from grace didn't happen in a straight line. It happened in a series of suffocating indignities. 6 months after the night at the motel, Liam Harrington sat in a holding cell in the basement of the federal courthouse. The bespoke Italian suits that had once been his armor were gone, replaced by a scratchy, ill-fitting orange jumpsuit that smelled of industrial detergent and other men's sweat. He stared at his hands. They were unmanicured, the cuticles ragged. He hadn't seen the sun in 3 days. "Harrington," a guard barked, rattling the bars. "It's showtime." Liam was shackled, wrists and ankles. The chains clinked with a heavy rhythmic grimness as he was shuffled down the hallway. He tried to hold his head up. He told himself he was still Liam Harrington, the visionary, the CEO. But the reflection in the security glass told a different story. A gaunt, greying man with fear etched into the deep lines around his mouth. They led him into courtroom 4B. It was a cavernous room of mahogany and marble, designed to make the individual feel small. Liam scanned the gallery immediately. It was a reflex. He was looking for his people. He looked for Marcus Thorne, perhaps coming to gloat. He looked for his old golf buddies. He looked for Sophia, though he knew that was a fantasy. The benches were empty, except for one person. In the back row, sitting perfectly still, was Alice. She wasn't wearing the sharp, aggressive white suit from the day of the hostile takeover. Today, she wore a dress of soft slate blue. Her hair was loose, falling in gentle waves around her shoulders. She didn't look like a vengeful ex-wife. She looked peaceful. She met his gaze. There was no smirk, no triumph. There was just a profound, terrifying indifference. She was witnessing this the way one might witness a traffic accident, with detachment. "All rise," the bailiff bellowed. Judge Reynolds entered. He was an older man with a face like a crumpled map and eyes that had seen every variety of human greed. The proceedings were a blur of legalese that felt like physical blows. The prosecutor, a sharp-featured woman named Ms. Vasquez, painted a picture of Liam that was devastating in its accuracy. "Mr. Harrington didn't just mismanage funds, Your Honor," Vasquez said, pacing in front of the jury box. "He treated a publicly traded company as his personal piggy bank. He routed $1.2 million into shell companies in the Caymans to fund a gambling addiction and a lifestyle he could no longer afford. He defrauded investors. He falsified tax returns. And he did it all while his wife, Alice Sterling, worked 18-hour days to keep the company solvent." Liam's public defender, a court-appointed lawyer who looked like he hadn't slept in a week, stood up. "Your Honor, my client is a broken man. He has lost his marriage, his home, and his reputation. We ask for leniency. He is not a danger to society." Judge Reynolds peered over his spectacles at Liam. The silence in the room was absolute. You could hear the hum of the air conditioning. "Mr. Harrington," the judge said, "greed is common in this courtroom, but the arrogance you displayed, the calculated dismantling of your own family's stability for personal gain, is exceptional." The judge picked up a piece of paper. "On the counts of wire fraud, tax evasion, and grand larceny, I sentence you to 60 months, 5 years, in a federal correctional institution. You are also ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $1.5 million, parole eligibility after 4 years. Bang! The gavel strike echoed like a gunshot. 5 years, Liam gasped. The air left his lungs. I can't do 5 years. The bailiffs moved in instantly, grabbing his elbows. Panic, cold and primal, seized him. He twisted in their grip, turning back toward the gallery. "Alice!" he screamed. It was an ugly sound, desperate and raw. "Alice, look at me! I made you! You were nothing before me! Help me!" Alice stood up. She smoothed the fabric of her dress. She didn't look at him. She turned to the man sitting beside her, a man Liam hadn't even noticed until now. He was tall, with kind eyes, and a protective hand on her back. Alice whispered something to him, and they walked toward the exit. She didn't look back. Not once. "She's walking away," Liam shouted, as the guards dragged him toward the side door. "Alice, I'm your husband. I'm the king." The heavy steel door slammed shut, cutting off his voice, and the world went black. "14 months later, time in prison didn't pass. It dripped. Liam sat in the visitation room of the Otisville Federal Correctional Institution. He had lost 20 pounds. His hair was almost completely white. The arrogance had been ground out of him, replaced by a dull, aching loneliness. He rarely got visitors. His lawyer had stopped coming after the appeal was denied. So when the guard told him he had a visitor, Liam's heart hammered against his ribs. Alice? Had she finally cracked? Had the guilt eaten her alive? He walked into the room, his eyes scanning the booths. It wasn't Alice. Arthur Blackwood sat on the other side of the plexiglass partition. He was wearing a suit that cost more than Liam's former car, and he looked entirely out of place in the grey drabness of the prison. Liam sat down and picked up the phone receiver. "Arthur." "Liam," Arthur said. His voice was tinny through the speaker, but his tone was the same cool, professional baritone Liam remembered. "You look different." "I live in a cage, Arthur. It changes a man." Liam leaned forward, his eyes hungry. "Why are you here? Did she send you? Does she want to settle?" Arthur opened his leather briefcase. He pulled out a glossy magazine. It was the latest issue of Fortune. He pressed it against the glass. On the cover was Alice. She looked radiant, powerful, and undeniably happy. She was standing in front of a sleek, modern building with the Sterling Industries logo behind her. The headline read, "The Phoenix, How Alice Sterling Resurrected a Dying Brand and Became the CEO of the Year." "She wanted you to see this," Arthur said calmly. "Stock price is up 200%. She expanded into renewable energy logistics. The company is worth triple what it was when you left." Liam stared at the photo. It felt like looking at a ghost. "She did this in a year." "She was always the one doing it, Liam. You just took credit for the meetings." Arthur pulled the magazine back. "Also, she wanted me to update you on the estate." "The house," Liam whispered. "Is she living there, with him?" "No," Arthur said. "She sold it 6 months ago." Liam frowned. "Sold it?" "But she fought so hard for it. She evicted me for it." "She fought for the asset, Liam, not the memories. She said the house smelled like lies. She sold it to a developer and donated the entire proceeds, $3 million, to the New Beginnings Shelter for Women and Children." Arthur paused, watching Liam's face crumble. "And one last thing," Arthur said, his voice softening just a fraction, though not out of pity. "She remarried last month. Dr. Julian Hayes, chief of surgery at St. Jude's. Good man, honest man." He reached into his pocket and held up a small photo. It was a sonogram. "She's expecting, Liam. A baby girl, due in the spring." Liam looked at the grainy black and white image. A baby. A real baby. Not a trap. Not a lie. A child conceived in love and truth. "Why?" Liam choked out, tears finally spilling over his rough cheeks. "Why come here? Why tell me this? Is this just to torture me?" Arthur stood up, buttoning his cashmere coat. He looked down at Liam through the glass. "No, Liam. It's not torture. It's closure. Alice wanted to make sure you understood something." "What?" Liam wept. "She wanted you to know that the mouse you threw out in the rain didn't drown. She learned to breathe underwater. And she wanted you to know that while you sit in here, counting the days until your release, she has stopped counting the past altogether. You aren't a villain in her story anymore, Liam. You're just a lesson she learned. Arthur hung up the phone. "Goodbye, Mr. Harrington." Liam watched Arthur walk away, the lawyer's heels clicking on the linoleum floor. The door buzzed open and shut. Liam sat there for a long time. The guard tapped on the glass. "Time's up, inmate." Liam stood up slowly. He walked back toward the heavy metal door that led to his cell block. As he walked, the memory of that rainy night on the porch came back to him, clearer than it had been in months. "Remember those words, Liam. Get out. You're nothing without me." He realized now, with the heavy, crushing weight of absolute truth, that he had been projecting. He was the one who was nothing. He was a suit without a man inside. And now, he didn't even have the suit. The bars slammed shut behind him. Liam Harrington lay down on his cot, turned his face to the cinder block wall, and closed his eyes. And that is the tragic, yet satisfying downfall of Liam Harrington. He spent his life believing that power came from the name on the door, but he learned too late that true power comes from the integrity of the person holding the keys. Alice showed us that dignity isn't just about walking away from toxicity. Sometimes it's about walking back in and reclaiming your worth. Liam lost his fortune, his freedom, and his legacy, all because he underestimated the quiet strength of the woman standing in his shadow. What do you think? Did Liam deserve the 5-year sentence? Or was the look on Alice's face in that courtroom punishment enough? And what about Sophia? Do you think she got away too easily? Or is a life chasing money its own kind of prison? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of justice and redemption, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We post incredible real-life dramas every single week. Thanks for watching, and remember, be careful who you step on your way up, because you might meet them on your way down. See you in the next video.